What a one, that a one, boss.
Hey, what a one.
Hi, I am Candy Pang.
What a guan?
What a one.
That a guan, pa.
What a one. What a one.
What a one! Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 a.m., 1:30 p.m., and 10 p.m. on CVM TV.
And that's a one for what a one.
Tonight on Lead Story, a student died after a fight at the Ocherius High School. Tonight, we hear directly from the National Secondary Students' Council on what students are experiencing inside Jamaica's schools. Then, the government prepares to announce and introduce artificial intelligence into the classroom. The Jamaica Learning Assistant promises a 24-hour digital tutor for every child. But here's a question. Can technology transform education if students do not feel safe in the places where they learn? Also tonight, from Paraguay, the Inter-American Development Bank announced a pathway to $500 billion in financing for the region. Jamaica is in the middle of a budget debate. The question for you is, are we prepared and positioned to claim our share? And Prime Minister Andrew Holness speaks tomorrow in the budget debate. What should the country be listening for? I'm Jodie Ann Quarry, and this is Lead Story. The National Secondary Students' Council, the NSSC, represents secondary school students across Jamaica. This week, they published a statement describing violence as an ever-present shadow in the lives of young Jamaicans. That very serious statement came after the death of a 16-year-old student at Ocherius High School on March 4, following a violent altercation on the school compound. A second student was taken into police custody. The Violence Against Children and Youth survey, released in November of last year, found that more than 3/4 of Jamaican youth between the ages of 13 and 24 have experienced some form of violence in their lifetime. The Jamaica Constabulary Force data shows that 168 children under the age of 17 were murdered in this country between 2020 and 2024. 351 more sustained gunshot injuries. The NSSC has also flagged elevated incidents of violence in Manchester and St. Catherine in recent months. So what's impacting and affecting our children, especially as they try to learn? Brian Anderson, the president of the National Secondary Students' Council, and Malik Spencer, the council's national treasurer, both join me now. Brian, Malik, welcome to Lead Story.
Yes, hello. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here today.
It's important. I'm glad to have you both here with us. I can't see you though, Malika, as you're speaking with me, but we're going to be having this conversation with you both because it's a very serious one. Brian, your council described violence as an ever-present shadow in the lives of Jamaican students in a very serious release from your association. In your own words, what's the daily reality for a secondary school student in Jamaica right now?
So the daily reality for students today, safety varies from school to school. We have varying environments and of course varying communities, but overall there's a growing sense of unease among our young people. Even students in relatively calm, students that were in relatively calm environments are starting to say that they feel unsafe, and they can experience some form of violence, whether physically or mentally or emotionally rather, and they can also experience harm online, and it creates this kind of anxiety and it distracts them from their learning. So it really begs the question, is school today really safe, and are our students treated with the utmost safety within the environment that they're exposed to? So while some schools are physically secure, some students do not feel psychologically safe. And as you would have stated, on March 4, 2026, the country was saddened by the death of a student at Ocherius High, and the death was caused by another student, which is extremely concerning, and that goes to show that this is a result of the environment that they're exposed to, because we are what we are exposed to. So if students are continuously exposed to violence, then they will in turn react to others with violence. Jamaica has one of the highest crime rates in the world. So
even with a dramatic reduction that we would have seen last year, yes, that continues to be accurate. So you're saying this culture of violence breeds violence here in Jamaica and is seen in our schools, Brian?
Yes, definitely. And the National Secondary Students Council has observed troubling concerns, especially within the parishes of Manchester and St. Catherine. As a matter of fact, when I was scrolling on my phone for the past months, I've constantly seen Manchester, whether it's the situation where a student went missing, to a student being killed and being slaughtered in a fridge, I believe, a whole lot of different concerning situations that young people are placed in, and it really needs to be amended immediately. And data from the Violence Against Children and Youth Survey highlights this from the PIOJ, of course, and it states that more than 3/4 of Jamaican youth aged 13 to 24 are experiencing some form of violence within their lifetime today. And this is some extremely concerning data.
And it is extremely concerning, but the fact that we're having you on today is moving it from this general bit of data that the country has to now the lived realities of our students. Malik, let me pull you in here because your president, Brian, there just spoke about that horrifying case of a 16-year-old student who had died at the Ocherius High School on March 4 following a violent altercation on the school compound. What was the reaction among students across the country when that news broke, that you're hearing one of your own died and another of your own was now, after that, held by the police?
All right, so in all honesty, it was shocking. It was, I myself was concerned. I was like, why does it have to always resolve in someone dying? Why does it always have to resolve around someone fighting when there are other alternatives that we can use? So, the matter of fact, even in high school, the school that I attend, it was a hot topic for a moment. Everybody said, oh, the youth died, and they were saying, bro, we have to stop fight, and etc. So it sent a shockwave across the secondary schools in Jamaica.
That shockwave, though, isn't just a matter of students seeing violence. Does it also mean that you're afraid to go to school, Malika, when you have to see the idea that you could get dressed, go to school, and not be able to return home to your family and friends?
Yes, it is scary, and not just me, but for students across Jamaica, they are scared because how can you leave home not knowing that you will not go back home, or you leave home not knowing that somebody will attack you, or you will be attacked on the road. So it has, oh, mommy, I don't want to go to school, daddy, I don't want to go to school, because you're in fear of your life.
And that awareness then of what it is that you have to deal with must be heart-rending for many people. Brian, the NSSC has called for stronger collaboration between the Ministry of National Security and the Ministry of Education to protect students. Not only on their commute to and from school, but I would also imagine that you'd want that sort of protection inside the schools as well, given what's going on. Have you been able to have that conversation with either ministry?
We wouldn't have been able to have like an in-depth conversation. However, we would have proposed the recommendation to the Ministry of Education, but we're still yet to have that meeting, but it will happen sometime soon. I'm in dialogue with both ministries, and I'm actively working to get a meeting with both ministries to facilitate for this type of dialogue so that we can effectively advocate for the students that have these concerns. Because some of the things that we would have recommended in a document that the NSSC would have made is to increase the amount of patrol presence near schools, so we can utilize things like the resource officers. So not a lot of students know this, but they are dedicated resource officers to schools, and their responsibility is to cater to our schools within that region.
And these are resource officers attached to the Jamaica Constabulary Force who now provide their services specifically to schools?
I believe so, but you don't quote me on that. I believe so, though.
All right, so you're saying give you more support in that way. What's been happening to our students as they make their way to and from school that has raised this concern, and had you put that proposal out now to both ministries?
So one thing I must say is commendations to the Ministry of Education and also the Ministry of Transport for utilizing the rural school bus system, because in this way students feel a bit more safe when traveling to and from schools, because they just go onto the bus, carries them straight to school, and carries them straight back. They don't have to go through the hassles of taking taxis. But for the ones that do have to go through that hassle, they feel extremely unsafe because they are exposed to things like gangs, persons smoking, persons with weapons, and they are exposed to these volatile communities, so they feel very unsafe, and it's a constant concern. And some of them have even expressed to me that they don't really like the community that they live in, and they want to move as soon as possible, but they aren't really able to because of their family situations. And
so this means then that our children, before they get to school, have to go through so many things in order to then learn. And you're putting that on the table, saying that impacts and affects that learning experience inside our schools. Well, we'll take a break inside Lead Story and come back, because if safety in our schools continues to be a concern, then what do we do with the new proposal on the table, artificial intelligence in our schools? What if it's not safe to learn there? Is this a band-aid or a legitimate way to get our students more education? Stay with us inside Lead Story.
Ready to make a lasting impact? Transform Life Solutions presents the Global Impact Leadership Summit, Rebuilding Jamaica from the Center. Saturday, April 4, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Garden Hotel in Mandeville, featuring guest speakers the Honorable Professor Leslie Rogers from Trinidad, Honorable Dr. Patrick Williams from Belgium, Leadership Coach Dr. Jacqueline Cousins from Jamaica. Admission is free. Hotel accommodations and exhibition booth spaces are available. Register now at www.tls-events.com. The Global Impact Leadership Summit, April 4. Don't miss it.
internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winford Williams.
At a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
So much more than entertainment.
Hi, I am Candy Pang at
Watagwan.
Watagwan.
Datagwan pa.
Watagwan.
Watagwan. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 a.m., 1:30 p.m., and 10 p.m. on CVM TV.
Watagwan pa Watagwan.
Welcome back to Lead Story. Brian Anderson and Malik Spencer of the National Secondary Students Council remain with us. This week, Senator Dr. Dana Morris Dixon of the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information announced the Jamaica Learning Assistant, an artificial intelligence tutoring platform available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, aligned to the national curriculum. The announcement follows a significant shift by the Caribbean Examinations Council, CXC, which has now conducted its first online-only examinations and has signaled openness to AI integration in assessment. But researchers at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, found that students who relied on AI for problem solving showed a decline of between 17 and 25% in their ability to solve problems independently over time. The question before us is now, is Jamaica running towards a future that its students are prepared for, or racing past a present they're still struggling to survive? Brian, the government has announced the Jamaica Learning Assistant. What was the Student Council's reaction to that announcement?
Towards that was positive for the most part. We would have done our research and would have realized the way that they're implementing it, and we don't believe that it would necessarily take away from the students' ability to inherently do tasks compared to what the MIT was saying. So we think that this is a good opportunity for students, because a lot of them are a bit more introverted nowadays, a bit more reserved, and utilizing this space where something tailored towards the curriculum and can just teach you on the spot would be a lot more beneficial. And I don't really think it would necessarily take away from their ability to problem solve, because with AI, you also need to have your own problem solving skills. AI alone cannot solve everything. So there is some level of knowledge that you need when utilizing AI. And I think that this initiative is a good one for sure. But there is a concern that students have brought up though. And this isn't related to the program, but related more so to the way AI detection will be used in SBAs. Some students have brought up the concern that they would have completed an SBA completely by themselves without any use of AI, yet still, when they put it on an AI detector, it says 80% AI, for example. I would have spoken to a president today and she would have stated that to me. And CXU would not accept this type of SBA because it would have been blatant use of AI, but still the student would not have used AI in the first place. So I strongly believe that these AI detectors are not reliable, and some form of human intervention needs to be put in place whenever we are doing these type of reviews.
So you're raising then several questions, not only about what it is that we have as a Jamaica Learning Program that's put in place now using artificial intelligence in schools, but also the connection to CXC and what happens if you're using AI or not using AI. Let me pull Malik in here, given some of the things that you've said. First, Malika, Brian, your president said students nowadays are more introverted, but isn't the whole purpose of school and interaction not only to teach content knowledge, but also to teach you how to interact with others, your peers, your teachers, ask questions, research, and that might be something lost if we decide that artificial intelligence in our schools, especially at a time where if they're more reserved, they might not become less reserved if they don't have to talk to anybody?
Well, it being introverted doesn't have anything to do with AI and stuff helping you with your homework and such. So it will not affect the social aspect of school life if they should use technology. I don't think it would affect at all.
So it wouldn't affect the social life. Let's talk about some of the problems, though, that have been raised by students, because there are social skills that humans in interaction with each other can hand off. But there's also a practical reality. The Jamaica Learning Program now that's being put in place using artificial intelligence has that concern that Brian has raised, which is students who say they aren't using AI, especially for things like producing school-based assessments or SBAs for CXE, are now getting flagged. Do you believe that we need to resolve how we're using AI? We're using AI here, can't use AI here, getting in trouble if you use it. Do you think that's something that we need to sort out?
Yes, I think it's something that needs to be sorted out, because I think it's unfair for us as students to do our SBAs 100% without using AI, and when we put it into the system, it's saying 80% AI, 50% AI, and no, that discourages the student. Because they say, so what am I going to know if we try decrease having a high percentage of AI? So it brings up stress on us as students to try to find other alternative. How are we going to drop the percentage?
And I think that is also a whole discussion as to whether or not these children are absolutely being truthful and honest in their presentations of how it is that they have cut that research together. Finally, for you, Malik, before I move back to Brian, researchers at MIT found that students who relied on AI for important brain tasks like problem solving showed a decline of between 17 and 25% in their ability to solve problems independently over time. Does that finding concern you in a time where people are trying to maybe find more and more quick ways and are not developing that harder skill set?
Yes, it concerns me, because even although we have AI and other technologies to help us with schoolwork, I think that teachers or Ministry of Education should start doing workshops that tell the students how to use it, when to use it, or give us work that we need 100% to use our brain, because many words that AI brings out, students and teachers know their students, though they don't know what's the meaning of the word, or they don't use that word on a regular basis in class. So all they can do is tell them when to use it and how to use it, and monitor them while they're using it.
I think that's so important. Brian, this now connects both of our conversations, because the government is deploying an AI tutoring tool into schools where, by its own data, the data that we have from the Violence in Schools survey, the data we have from the PIOJ, students have experienced violence. Can a child who's traumatized and unsafe benefit from an AI tutoring tool?
Can a child who is
traumatized and unsafe, especially at school, where you said to us those children on their way to school are dodging gangs, they're dodging cigarette smoke. On their way back, they have to deal with all sorts of things. At home, they are confronted with violence, and at school, we now see violence there as well. Is this AI tool that is being provided perhaps not best placed for a set of students who have what you called earlier physical safety, but perhaps not psychological safety?
First and foremost, I strongly believe that Jamaica needs a lot of mental health intervention. A lot of our persons, as a matter of fact, studies show that 1 in 4 young person, 1 in 4 Jamaican young person struggle from
Brian is breaking up as he's speaking with us, as he talks to us about the data. Brian, you just broke up.
And this is extremely concerning. So we need...
Brian, you just broke up as you're talking to us about that survey, 1 in 4 Jamaican students having experienced violence. What is that on the basis of saying that that mental health intervention is necessary for our students?
Was saying that 1 in 4 young persons struggles from some form of mental health issue, not violence.
Okay.
Yes. So I was saying that mental health intervention is definitely needed, because a lot of our students don't directly experience violence on a regular basis, but they experience it indirectly through social media platforms, through their communities that they traverse through each and every day. So definitely they need some form of mental health intervention, and would have been in dialogue, us as the National Students Council would have been in dialogue with the Ministry of Health. Up to yesterday, would have had a meeting with Minister Tufton trying to implement a school mental health policy across Jamaica. So there are definitely strides being put in place, but I don't believe that putting a framework that assists students would be to their disbenefit, but just because they're experiencing violence. If anything, it assists them. So we full-heartedly welcome this decision by the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information, and I believe that it will significantly benefit our students across Jamaica.
I think that's a very nuanced view that you've taken there, and useful for parents and educators who are at home looking at both of these challenges that the NSSC has raised. Malik, though, your association has called for life skills education, and hearing what your president has said, he's talked about some of these things in the release: conflict resolution, emotional intelligence, mental health literacy, given what he has just highlighted with 1 in 4 children now experiencing some sort of mental health concern. And you've asked for it to be embedded in the national curriculum. If you could get only one thing into every classroom in Jamaica tomorrow, Malik, the AI tutor, the life skills program, which would you choose?
I would choose the AI tutor, because as a student myself, sometimes when the teachers in the class teaches, we don't get a full-on understanding in an hour or 2 hours. So when we come home now, we can say, all right, miss, give me this. So we can just put it into AI, ask them how they can explain it, and give us some questions for us to answer. So I would choose the tutor.
All right. And Brian, for you, if you could put that life skills education into the classrooms and that mental health advocacy, some of those other things that you have raised there a moment ago, emotional intelligence, conflict resolution, or the AI tutor tomorrow in our schools, which would you choose?
Which one would I choose? Well, I'm going to disagree with Malik and choose the mental health side of it, and
so that life skills program.
Yes, that whole life skills program, teaching them all about that different stuff, because I'm a strong believer in that a student must be effectively prepared and feel safe within their current environment before they're prepared to learn. So they need to learn all of these life skills first. They need to be tutored. They need to be mentally ready to learn before they can actually learn. So definitely these one-on-one sessions are essential, and I believe that we're underplaying it just a little bit, but both are critical and both are very much welcomed in our school environment.
I think it's good then that we heard both sides and we got to have a better understanding of how all of our students can be served. Malik and Brian, they are saying we need both in our schools immediately. Brian Anderson, President, and Malik Spencer, National Treasurer of the National Secondary Students Council. Thank you both for joining us this evening on Lead Story. An important conversation, and we're grateful you brought it up here. All right, coming up from Asuncion, Paraguay to Jamaica's budget debate. $500 billion on the table for this region. CVM's Amoy Harriet was on the ground at the IDB Group's annual meetings, and she joins us after the break.
This isn't just a tour, it's a wealth summit designed experts to learn how smart money invests in Jamaica. Ticket on sale at StellaGlobalRealty.com.
Tired of the high interest rates and the whole heap of loan payments every month? Take a debt consolidation loan from AIM to pay credit card bills and all other high interest rate loans from other institutions. Make one low monthly payment to AIM and take home some extra money in your pocket. That's financial freedom. One loan, one low payment, more money in your pocket. Call AIM today to lower your loan payments. And remember, you won't find a better deal elsewhere. Guaranteed.
The internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winfred Williams.
At a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
So much more than entertainment.
Jamaica, make we do the right thing. Make we live good today for a better tomorrow. Talk it out, don't fight it out. The time by the Ministry of National Security is
6:30.
From energy crisis to development finance, the Inter-American Development Bank Group held its annual meetings in Asunción, Paraguay last week. The headline out of those meetings, a pathway to $500 billion in financing capacity for Latin America and the Caribbean over the next decade. 2 new frameworks were launched. The first, LAC Crece, a private sector-led growth platform designed to attract co-investment rather than relying solely on sovereign debt, so private sector, not just government. And the second, Procure Plus, a new procurement transparency standard that countries must meet to access IDB financing pipelines. Jamaica, we're in the middle of our budget debate season here, but Hurricane Melissa has left a reconstruction financing gap. The question tonight is whether Jamaica is structured to access what came out of Paraguay. Now, no less than CVM's midday news anchor and reporter, Moy Harriet, was on the ground in Asunción for those meetings. She joins us now. Moy, welcome back to Lead Story.
Thank you, Jody. Good evening, and good evening to your viewers.
Oh, well, last I saw you were in foreign breeze on you. You were in Asunción, Paraguay for that IDB group set of meetings that just took place. Set the scene for us. First off, what was Paraguay like?
As in outside of the IDB group meetings?
Outside of the IDB group meetings, my mother said to me, where did you send Amoy? She wanted to know where on the map Paraguay was, and she wanted to know if Paraguay was similar to Jamaica or different. Somebody was there on the ground. What does Paraguay look like?
There are similarities to Jamaica, and then there are also differences. It's a very, very beautiful country, Jody, especially at nights. I joked to someone recently, and I was saying that Paraguay was giving a little bit of vibe like New York.
Hey.
Like it kind of want to be a little Latin version of New York, okay. A little bit. It's a very, very beautiful country, and you know the people there, they're different from Jamaicans in some regard, but they're also very nice and friendly, like your typical what I'll say, or regional counterparts, and yeah, it was pretty much a decent experience. I enjoyed Paraguay for the week that I was there, and definitely look forward to visiting other countries in South America at some point in the future.
There you go. So you have been to South America, you went to Paraguay, but you specifically went to this IDB group meeting, this annual meeting that takes place. What was the overarching message coming out of these meetings?
So generally speaking, and I would have shared this the last time I was on Lead Story, the entire idea of the IDB Group annual meetings is to ensure that whatever issues we're having as a region, both Latin America and the Caribbean, we find ways to solve those problems. And a lot of the sessions that we had over the couple of days that we were in Paraguay, it really drew back down to a few main points, one of them being regional integration, which our countries in Latin America and the Caribbean right now are trying to figure out how can we bridge the gap that we currently have where regional integration is concerned? And then also, what are some issues that are affecting us in terms of helping us be where we want to be, where infrastructure is concerned? So our roads, our schools, our hospitals, and also our human resources. So we focused on issues like our aging population and how we can actually benefit from our aging population. And you know, these conversations all surrounded one major goal, which is to see what our issues are, and based on our issues, what projects and developments can we put in place to address these issues?
And I think that's important because it's the Inter-American Bank Development Bank Group, and they've spoken about mobilizing up to $500 billion in investment across the region. How significant is a target like that for Latin America and the Caribbean?
$500 billion enough money to do. $500 billion is a lot of money. Billion. That's a lot of money. No, it's unclear at this time how that $500 billion will be divided among the countries in Latin America and the Caribbean. But nonetheless, we know that as it stands right now, a lot of our governments in the region can't fund certain projects on our own. So this $500 billion will go a far way in terms of addressing some of our issues. So the roads that we always complain about, the pothole them, issues like those, projects like those, or schools or hospitals, you know, infrastructure related projects. And this $500 billion with the help of the IDB group, which, I mean, $500 billion, that shows how ambitious the IDB group is for the Caribbean and Latin America. And I believe that this will definitely go a far way for the region.
We're in the middle of budget debate right now. You've come back to that. You spoke to us about it last week, why Jamaica couldn't be on the ground like some of our counterparts because our Minister of Finance was involved in the budget. When you look at something like this, Hurricane Melissa leaving a huge reconstruction gap for financing, were there any specific discussions in Asuncion about disaster recovery financing or small land and developing states? Because we're busy about It's nice that you went to South America, but at the end of the day, Jamaicans want to hear what it is that they could get, especially as our minister now is talking about some sources that we can tap. Was this IDB group meeting one of these places?
On day one, the very first day of the group meetings, we actually had a session where we spoke about resilience, and our very own Dr. Wayne Henry, who is from the PIOJ, he was in attendance and on the panel for this conversation. And pretty much the focus was on how much we can recover after major disasters, because where we are right now in the Caribbean, the earthquakes and the hurricanes and the flood, like, we are prone to these disasters. So how is it that we can recover once we have these natural disasters, and not just recovering after the fact, but preparing ahead of time? So that was a major talking point coming out of that session with Dr. Wayne Henry, who would have shared our experience here in Jamaica. And I mean, where we are right now, months later after Hurricane Melissa, we have recovered to a certain extent, but there are still certain sectors, certain groups, certain areas where there's still some amount of recovery that's needed. So the conversation really is focusing on how the next time we get another Melissa or another Beryl, how can we ensure it doesn't take us 4, 5, 6 months before we've fully recovered?
Well, it's certainly going to be more than 4, 5, 6 months, perhaps 4, 5, 6 years. In some places, 4, 5, 6 decades of recovery. But as you were on the ground on Friday, you were also sending us live reports about what was going on. Talk to me about the context of those discussions that you were having on Friday, and then let's see past Amoy now talk to us about what Jamaica's future could look like.
Right. So, and one of the conversations that I would have had on Friday specifically was an interview I did with a regional economist. His name is Leon Lin, and he's a senior analyst for the Economist Intelligence Unit, which is a regional organization which basically looks at the forecast for each country, where we're doing, how we're doing financially. And it's so ironic because Jamaica falls within his portfolio, and he randomly came up to me at the IDB group meeting and said, "Hey, you're a Moy, right? You're from Jamaica." And we had a brief sit down where he pretty much broke down certain concepts, certain terms coming out of the IDB group annual meetings, which was very useful for persons like me who may not know all the big financial terms. And so I felt like conversations like those made a huge impact in terms of bringing across IDB group's message coming out of the meetings.
And therefore, let me throw then to Pastor Moy as she talks to us about Jamaica's potential future. They're on the ground in Asuncion, Paraguay.
come to the end of day 3 of the IDB Group annual meetings here in Asuncion, Paraguay. And much like the past 2 days, today's sessions were filled with riveting conversations about, like I shared with you before, how grow the economies of countries in Latin America and the Caribbean. And there was much talk today about regional integration during a couple of our sessions that we had. But outside of the sessions though, I've come to realize that one of the advantage of attending an event such as the IDB Group annual meetings is the opportunity to network with key players in different sectors across the region. And I had the privilege of meeting an individual of this nature today. His name is Leon Lin, and he's a senior analyst for the Economist Intelligence Unit, which is an organization that provides economic forecasts for countries in the Caribbean and Latin America. And it so happens that Mr. Lin, or Jamaica, actually falls under Mr. Lin's portfolio. So I had to sit down with him. I had him break down certain conversations for us that, would have otherwise gone over a lot of people's heads, whether it's Jamaicans or persons living in the Caribbean. Now, to start off the conversation, Mr. Lin first shared with me, having paid attention to Jamaica over the past several years, he shared with me, in his opinion, what he believes is how good Jamaica has been doing over the last several years.
Well, firstly, it's refreshing to see a country in Latin America that's known to have very difficult fiscal positions, to have a fiscal surplus and primary surplus, and been able to reduce debt from 137% in 2012 to nearly 63% in 2024. So that's really astonishing. It's a great feat, and that really ensures a better credit, better financing for Jamaica in the future in cases of crises, and also ensures long-term growth.
Despite this, though, this growth in the economy or this strengthening of the economy, does it always translate to better quality of lives for regular Jamaicans? I posed this question to Mr. Lin.
It depends a lot on how the growth was achieved and why there's a high cost of living. So Jamaica is exposed to various risks, right? So is exposed to not only the hurricane risk, weather-related risks, but also external risks coming from what's happening geopolitically with oil prices. So those things really affect are things that Jamaica, the government itself, doesn't have much control, neither the country, the businesses themselves. So those factors play into it.
Now we see where many Caribbean countries like Jamaica depend heavily on tourism as a part of growing its economy. But according to Mr. Lin, there are actually real alternatives that exist, and he's suggesting that governments in the region tap into these opportunities.
Jamaica is a small country. It is a beautiful country. So I'm not surprised that it relies so much on tourism. So, and it should continue to invest in its tourism sector, which is thriving, which is very solid and healthy and stable. So it's something that will continue to attract. Jamaica is known to have beautiful beaches and resorts. To get into other sectors, there are efforts that I've seen from the government and from private sectors to improve, advance their mining sector, for example, and getting to more higher value-added industries as well, and more technology industries. So there are efforts for that, and Jamaica has quite a significant lot of for mining as well. So it's not it's a big sector.
See, there you go. On the ground there in Asuncion, Paraguay, we were able to hear from now Mr. Lin, who's there as part of the Economic Analysis Group, helping us better understand from the bank's perspective and from international investors' perspectives what they see in Jamaica. And that's important during budget time, Amoy, and you were able to go down there to Paraguay to bring us all that information. Amoy, thanks for joining us and bringing us that perspective from Paraguay. Paraguay.
Thank you so much again, Jody.
A pleasure to have you inside the show. Next up, we're going to be focused on Jamaica's budget. Tomorrow, Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness makes his contribution to the budget debate. After hearing now from the finance minister, hearing from the opposition spokesperson on finance, hearing from the opposition leader on Tuesday, what will the Prime Minister say? Well, we'll have that discussion next inside Lead Story.
Me and the style is no scam and style me.
From the market to the farm to the office, money talk is everywhere. But are you making sense or nonsense? The Bank of Jamaica brings you common sense with BOJ. Real stories, real laughs, and real lessons to help you protect, grow, and manage your money. Mattress savings.
At least my mattress. You charge me to sleep on it.
Partner plan.
Remember last year we needed our payouts early? But Miss Pam gave it to her cousin first.
Or a sketchy loan flyer.
Electrifying deals.
See why making the right financial choices is pure common sense. Brought to you by Bank of Jamaica, empowering everyday Jamaicans one episode at a time.
Grandpa, it's 2026. You can't keep hiding all your money in every single pocket forever.
Welcome back to Lead Story. Tomorrow, Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness takes the floor at Gordon House to deliver his budget contribution for the 2026-2027 fiscal year. The Finance Minister has already presented the government's numbers. Now, the Prime Minister is expected to provide the political and policy framework behind those decisions. Joining me now to look ahead at what he might say is Sandra Roden, social and political commentator. Sandra, good evening. Welcome to Lead Story. Yeah, unmute Sandra as you talk to us. I need to be able to hear you. The nation needs to be able to hear you as you talk to us this evening. Oh, no, still can't hear you. We're seeing you very well, but talk again. So let's see if we can hear audio from you now.
Hi.
There you go, Sandra Roden. You're talking to the nation this evening as we now look ahead to Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness's presentation tomorrow. The Finance Minister laid out the numbers on March 11th. Sandra, what's left for Dr. Holness to do tomorrow that she could not or did not do?
Well, there is, I think, a lot for the Prime Minister to do tomorrow because, of course, if we listen to Minister Williams' speech, it was a sobering speech. It was a speech that, had the numbers. It was methodical. Of course, she had her story in it. But it was one of the shortest speeches if we've been hearing budget speeches over the years. I think, for one, we have to hear in a more detailed way about what exactly the recovery effort has looked like. Because a lot of persons across the country would like to know that and what is left to do. That's something very important for a lot of us, especially when we consider the context of Hurricane Melissa. Then I think the Prime Minister has to also robustly justify the tax package. That is because, of course, the opposition, they have come out with alternatives as Mr. Robinson from the opposing side on finance would have come out with an alternative. You know, he spoke about digital nomad, etc., etc. So the Prime Minister need to come now and robustly defend this tax package and also defend the rationale behind why these specific areas were taxed. And also, I think the Prime Minister has to go really deep on the point of economic growth. The opposition leader spoke to that, and that's something that the Prime Minister needs to drive home. I'll say more on that after your next couple questions.
And I think that's important because we also spoken with economists about what it is that Jamaica needs. And while this is a recovery budget, one that is dealing with life after Hurricane Melissa, it's also in the context of Jamaica having low economic growth. Now, you did say something really important a moment ago, which is the government has defended those new tax measures necessary and saying that they're necessary for fiscal stability. So the NHT drawdown, the sugary drink tax, the environmental levy, these are individual taxes that have now been put on the table. But what argument will the Prime Minister need to make tomorrow to persuade the public on these taxes, to move them, whether it is individuals or manufacturers or others, that this is the right direction?
Well, what the Prime Minister has to come and say tomorrow is that if this budget asks Jamaicans to pay more today, he needs to now show where Jamaicans have a pathway where they can earn more tomorrow. And that is simply it. I think the connection between taxes, the connection between economic and fiscal management and economic growth needs to be clearly outlined. Because of course, you've heard a lot about, lagging in capital spending. Whatever the reasons are, it is now a third term for Jamaica Labour Party government. And that says that Dr. Andrew Holness and the JLP team that now holds the reins of government cannot use the excuses that were used 9 years ago, 8 years ago, 7 years ago. Now the political will must be there to show how Jamaicans can earn more tomorrow if they are going to pay for this recovery now. And I'm saying that on the pretext of economic growth and the need for same. What is being done for small businesses? I can tell you point blank from my perspective, not enough. Are there grants ready and available? I don't think the industries are being funded properly. I don't think we can grow if we continue along the line of, yes, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, but the real political will to back these initiatives that the Prime Minister probably announces, probably it's not being implemented in an agency, in a ministry. Those things need to change. Bureaucracy needs to change, and economic growth and productivity must happen. If it doesn't happen, if it's not demonstrated in what he articulates, then of course we're going to have some question marks.
I think that's so important, and it's something that was echoed inside Lead Story Prime as well by the president of the Small Business Association, Garnet Reid, talking about what should be in the budget for small businesses. He's expecting when Finance Minister Favour Williams closes the budget that she might touch on additional things. So we're looking then at what the Prime Minister says and what Favour Williams, Finance Minister, says next week as well, if he doesn't touch it tomorrow. But Sandra, the country is still dealing with the economic impact of Hurricane Melissa. A lot of our conversation has centered on that. How important is the reconstruction spending in this budget? Because you did speak about the capital underspend. That's been a thing that's been raised as well. But importantly, how important is this new body that has been created, the National Resilience and Reconstruction Authority, NARA? Do you expect the Prime Minister to spend time on that tomorrow?
I would love if he spent time on it, because if you listen to the Prime Minister when he goes about and speak, he himself, he is a tad bit annoyed about the rate of development in his Jamaica, the Jamaica that he leads. And he has said it in many fora. I've heard him, I've heard many speeches, and he said he wants things to move faster. He wants the capital expenditure to go. He wants that. But not only is that important, but it is important to understand the framework under which this agency can be a pilot program of sorts to show us an agency that works quickly. And no, I'm not saying that there aren't agencies that work well, because there are, but I'm saying generally government as a whole has to be speedier in implementing these changes, because what has happened, Jody, is that there has been projects that have been on the books for years, projects from 1999 that are just getting implemented in 2026, for example. And that's because somebody is going to tell you that, oh, there was this process or that process or this had to be done, and processes are good. But when bureaucracy and processes hamper development and growth, it doesn't help the government.
And
It
this is
actually
something,
hurts the government.
and that process of how NARA in particular will operate is something that opposition leader Mark Golding spoke about on Tuesday, and it's something that was echoed as well by opposition spokesman on finance, Julian Robinson, last Thursday. Finally, Sandra, Jamaicans will watch the Prime Minister speak tomorrow. What's the one question you believe that he must answer, that if he doesn't answer it, the budget fails the test of public accountability?
The one question is simple. How will we achieve economic growth? That is the one question the Prime Minister must answer.
That is your big one question, as heavy for the Prime Minister in a country that has been seeing 0.1 or 0.5% growth, 1% growth. The PIOJ says that we might even have a contraction post-Hurricane Melissa. That's rough for the Prime Minister to look at. But as you started off by saying, people want to see if they're going to sacrifice today for a better tomorrow. You have to tell them what that process looks like.
Yeah, he has to. He has to outline it, Jody, because that is what people have voted for the Jamaica Labour Party government under Andrew Holness for the last couple of years. And I think that is the platform on which he himself has set himself apart, and he has to come and explain that and answer that to the country tomorrow.
Well, we'll be watching the speech made by Dr. Holness tomorrow, so will the nation, as we see why, not just the how will be taxed, but the why will be taxed tomorrow from him. Sandra, thank you for joining us and sharing your analysis inside Lead Story. All right. A quick conversation there, but an important one. Tomorrow we'll hear the full speech made by Dr. Holness. But here's my take. We heard from two young Jamaicans tonight, students who lead other students. They came with data, with policy recommendations, and with a question that no government announcement has fully answered. Can a child who is afraid learn? The Jamaica Learning Assistant may be a genuine innovation, but innovation deployed into trauma is not transformation, it's decoration. With a government that is building for the future, with an AI tutor in the classroom, a reconstruction body, and even a seat at the table in Paraguay, but all while the present remains unresolved. It's not contradictory, no. They cancel each other out. A country can build and neglect at the same time. It can announce nice things and fail to deliver at the same time. So the test for tomorrow is not whether the Prime Minister speaks well. It's whether he says things that can be held against what actually happens in April and May by the end of the fiscal year. Brian Anderson said tonight that the consequences of violence can last generations. He's right. And so can the consequences of a government that announces without delivering. That is the story. I'm Jody Ann Quarry, and on behalf of the entire CVM production team, thank you for watching Lead Story. Have a fantastic evening, and I hope you stay safe. Up next, CVM News.